Welcome back, Americans. Hugh Hewitt, joined now by Governor Tim Pawlenty of the great state of Minnesota. Governor, I was over at timpawlenty.com, and here I'm greeted by this big smiling face of Dennis Miller and an interview you've done with Bennett, but nowhere do I find your commissioner of hockey, that would be me, on this website.
That's because you've been stiffing me, Hugh. I know, you've been pandering to various other people around the country, but my phone never rings. Each night at the dinner hour, I sit here and look at it, hoping that one day Hugh might call, but never.
I know. You're on Meet the Press. You're on Larry King Tonight. We little radio guys, we can't get a word in edgewise with you anymore. How did it go at CPAC?
CPAC went fine. I had a really good time, a lot of energy, compared to a year ago, Hugh. Energy was positive, hopeful, looking forward, and enthusiastic. And, of course, last year was more discouraged than that, but overall went very well.
Now, in terms of this Thursday show summit, what is your advice to the Republicans going into this Box Canyon?
Well, I don't, based on the president's changing in the bill, it doesn't look like he's serious about negotiating. He's only made a few tweaks as between two Democrat proposals. So, and my hope would be that this would be a sincere effort by the administration, but it appears to me to be window dressing so they can check the box and say they tried before they ram it through on reconciliation, which I hope doesn't work. I hope it gets defeated and they have to go back to the drawing board. But if I had to guess what they're doing, that's what it looks like to me.
Well, they've got a lot of Democratic congressmen sitting on the fence. The members from Minnesota, do you think they're going to come around in the House and vote for this monster even after the people have registered their sentiment?
Well, in Minnesota, we got a couple interesting examples of both ends of the Democratic perspective. For example, we have one of the Blue Dog Democrats in northwestern Minnesota, Colin Peterson, who's voted against things like the stimulus, and I think he voted against the original health care bill coming out of the House because he thought it went too far. So maybe he would stay with us, although I don't know that. He's going to get a lot of pressure. He's a committee chair. And then on the other end of the continuum, you have Keith Ellison from Minneapolis, who is saying if they didn't have the public option in it, he might vote against it because it didn't go far enough from a liberal perspective. So we got the whole waterfront covered in our delegation.
Now, in terms of Minnesota, pretty progressive state. It's always been on the cutting edge of social legislation. What's the feeling about Obamacare there among average, ordinary Gopher State people?
Well, interesting you say that. By the way, Massachusetts went for Reagan twice. Minnesota never did. It may be one of the most, if not the most, liberal states in the country. So I love my state, but politically it's a little unusual, and I'm making a difference from a conservative standpoint. But to answer your question, if you get out of people who are not, in government or part of the political activists from the left, average people are worried. They think it's overreach. They don't like it. I think we all can agree the healthcare system is busted. People know it's causing too much financial pressure on families and businesses and governments. But we should do those things from a market perspective that are going to reduce costs. What the Democrats are doing is just trying to expand access to the currently broken system and have government take more and more of it over.
And so what if you put it up to a vote, would Obamacare fail among Minnesota voters?
I think it would, Hugh, although, there's so many versions of it that have been flying around. But I think even in Minnesota, at best, it would be a close call. I mean, or from our standpoint, and maybe at worst, it would be a close call. And at best, I think we might be able to win it.
That's why I just don't understand what they're doing. Do you have a sense of what he's doing, Governor, why he is pushing this thing forward?
Well, I think it's hard for conservatives to understand the mindset of the people inside that party because there has been a multi-decade movement to try to get some form of either government health care, universal health care, single-payer health care. And it's not a casual issue. Inside that party, inside the left of that party, it's a very militant, committed group. And so, I don't know what I would compare it to within the conservative movement, but this is not some casual issue. This is something they've been on for decades. I think they probably mishandled it, but I think they're so far out on the limb now they can't take a loss. So they're just going to continue to try to push it forward.
All right, now I want to switch to politics. We got 35 or 36 governor races on the ballot in 7 months here. You have been the leader of the former Republican Governors Association. You're involved in trying to get these people. What's the win look like to you when it comes to the state houses?
Hugh, this looks really good. We have 37 races on the ballot this fall. Haley Barbour, the great Haley Barbour, is the chair of the RGA. I'm the vice chair, so we spend a lot of time on these issues. The pendulum's swinging back our way. The atmospherics feel good. The issues feel really good. The map favors us. So we're going to pick up seats. I don't want to brag and tell you we're going to pick up, a bunch of them, but we're going to pick up at least, a half a dozen, and if things continue to break our way, it could be substantially north of that. I can tell you with a pretty good assurance that Republican governors will once again be the majority of the governorships in this country, and then some.
How's it look in Minnesota for your successor?
Well, in Minnesota, the race hasn't really started that much yet. All the candidates are busy doing the behind-the-scenes work with delegates on each party side, and the candidates haven't really emerged in a public way yet. I don't think the public's tracking it yet. But in Minnesota, no presidential race this year. The governor's race will be the featured race, and the climate is going to be a lot better than 06 or 08. So if a Republican can win here in 06 like I did, they certainly can win here in 10 because it's going to be a much, much better year.
Ted Strickland, the Democrat in Ohio, he's up by 5 points over John Kasich in today's Quinnipiac poll. Do you think he hangs on in Ohio? Do you think Kasich can win that thing?
Well, absolutely. If this, of course, is all going to evolve over the summer and fall, but there's a great, great opportunity for Republicans in some of the biggest, most important states in the country. Our candidate down in Florida, I think, is in the lead. We've got a great candidate in Pennsylvania, Tom Corbett, who's the current attorney general and their leading vote getter time in and time out in Pennsylvania. John Kasich, of course, has got a great record as a spending hawk, a fiscal hawk, and some of the polls have had him up in Ohio, and I think most of the polls have had him up recently. That's just a sampling of what's going on, Hugh. But if we win the governorships in those big states and what that means for redistricting and party building and candidate recruitment, and most importantly, the issue direction in those states, it's going to be a good thing. But to answer your question, absolutely, we can win in Ohio.
All right, we got 30 seconds left. Before you leave office, are you going to make all of my titles, lifetime titles, maybe even hereditary titles?
Well, we have 21 Minnesotans, I think, in the Olympics. It's the most of any state. So I want to give you a new Olympic title. I think we should call you the high-minded yet low-handed cleaner and leader of the Olympic locker room.
Pawlenty, always a pleasure. I walked into that one. You tell your press guy that's the last time I'm trusting him, Governor. Always a pleasure. Good luck tonight on Larry King. I'll be right back, America. It's the Hugh Hewitt Show.